Marvel's panel at San Diego Comic-Con this year gave the fandom so much to talk about. I mean, it's easy to fixate on one of the 10 properties that Kevin and Disney have in store for phase number 4 of the MCU. The Eternals are one of the most interesting beings to be introduced into the Marvel Cinematic Universe, and their upcoming movie could give us explanations as to how the Marvel Universe was created. This could follow in a chain of reveals such as how S.H.I.E.L.D., the Avengers Initiative, and the Sokovia Accords began. With a new main cast introduced at Comic-Con who will be leading this movie, it is also interesting to think of who within the already established MCU could either make a surprise or cameo appearance in the upcoming Eternals movie. Here are 10 characters who have already appeared in the MCU who could easily make an appearance in the upcoming movie, with no plot details or time frame to speak of. These characters could currently be dead in the present day but alive at the time of this movie, akin to Ronan the Accuser in Captain Marvel. Before we start, I'm Andrew Caravella. Find me on social, On Air Andrew. Alright guys, let's go. First up, the Dead Celestial. Now this being was first introduced in the MCU during 2013's Guardians of the Galaxy. Nothing is more striking in a space opera movie than the floating head of a dead ancient being that has been renovated as a makeshift space station. This is what the Dead Celestial has become as a headquarters for the Tivan group, known as Nowhere, which is home to the Collector, aka Tanalir Tivan. With Celestials being as ancient as the Eternals, it stands a fair chance we will see the origins of this Dead Celestial in the upcoming Eternals movie, maybe with an explanation as to how it became to be beheaded and subsequently turned into a space station for the Collector. More on him further down in this list. Now, let's look at Ego. Celestials become a big part of the Guardians movie, not only with the deceased head making an impact, but the introduction of Ego, the living planet, as the villain of Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 2. Ego demonstrated the full powers of a Celestial as he showed his son, Star-Lord, and the rest of the Guardians how he formed the planet he had become, and also how he can manipulate energy and terraform other planets. Despite his biggest regret in his life of feeling alone in the universe for eons, Kevin Feige has been known to retcon a couple of minor points in older movies to fit with the current slate, so it stands to reason Ego may make a minor cameo appearance in the upcoming movie. Now let's look at Isan the Searcher. It's not entirely clear whether or not we can say that Isan has been formally introduced in the MCU, given that his only appearance is Guardians of the Galaxy, and he was a holographic vision created by the Collector to tell the origins of the Infinity Stones. However, what we do see of this Celestial is that he is a powerful, ruthless, and massive being who wielded the Power Stone to decimate a population. While we know that Isan is not part of the main cast of characters announced at Comic-Con, he could still appear in a central or important role in the upcoming movie. Up next, the Grand Master. Now this is one of the most entertaining beings currently in the MCU, and currently he is possibly one of the most underdeveloped aside from the fact he has a sadistic sense of humor. Actor Jeff Goldblum brilliantly brought life to the zany leader of Sakaar, who had the likes of both the Hulk and Thor caught up in his elaborate arena games, all for the purpose of his own amusement. What may not be known about him is that the Grand Master is one of the oldest beings in the universe who isn't a Celestial or Eternal, so having him appear in some capacity during the Eternals movie isn't completely out of the realm of a possibility, maybe showing the origins of how he created Sakaar. Up next, the Collector. So moving on to the Grand Master's brother, yes, you heard that right, his brother, the Collector, formerly known as Tanalir Tivan, has been a staple in the MCU since the mid-credits scene in Thor: The Dark World, yeah, we remember that one, which showed how the Collector had a keen interest in the Infinity Stones. While Tivan's current status is unknown after losing the Reality Stone to Thanos during Avengers Infinity War, being the brother of the ancient Grand Master, it stands to reason that the Collector is also an ancient being himself. Seeing the double act of Jeff Goldblum and Benicio del Toro on screen would be comedic gold for fans of both characters and actors. Having them appear as either advisors or confidants in the movie would be a great treat for those fans hesitant for the upcoming movie. And now at number 5, let's look at Odin. So the Eternals, Celestials, Grand Master, and Collector are the oldest beings in the universe. So when telling a story set at the beginning of creation, who else can you include? Well, how about the Asgardians being as they're another species with an ancient ancestry? All-Father Odin could very easily make an appearance in the upcoming movie, as he has long been considered one of the oldest beings in the MCU. We know his father Bor was around before him, but we don't know when he died or even when Odin was born. However, seeing Odin as a young man potentially struggling with the same hubris and arrogance that his son Thor once did would be a very interesting development for the character. Fans are already aware of the Allfather's ruthlessness, so seeing the beginning of that would make for an interesting viewing. And how about Hela? So one of the shadiest things Odin has ever done is literally cover up his own history from at least his subjects and son, as the introduction of Cate Blanchett's Hela in 2017's Thor Ragnarok saw the goddess of death declare her father as a liar who preached peace and prosperity but was ashamed of the bloodshed he relished in to achieve it. If the Eternals were to cross the path of Asgard as they seek to attempt to stop Odin's reign of terror, it stands to reason that Hela as Odin's executioner could be by his side, ready for a battle with the ancient beings. The chance to see a full-on battle between Cate Blanchett's Hela and Angelina Jolie's Athena would definitely be a selling point in the movie for many fans. And now we go into our top three. Let's kick it off with Valkyrie. We already know that Tessa Thompson's Valkyrie is set to play a big part in the future of the MCU. Not only is she the new king of New Asgard, but she will be appearing in Thor: Love and Thunder alongside Chris Hemsworth and Natalie Portman, but her arc will center on being the first LGBT superhero in the MCU. However, as it was shown in Thor Ragnarok, Valkyrie has been around long enough that she led the charge against Hela before the latter was banished by Odin. So, if she's been around that long, could we see the Valkyries as an army of Asgard in the Eternals going up against the Eternals, or even fighting alongside them? And just to be clear, we're not trying to turn this movie into the Eternals versus Asgardians, but as we have no clear antagonist confirmed as of yet, it would be an interesting situation to see the darker days of Asgard told as a secondary story. Number 2, let's look at Thor. So again, we're not trying to push the Asgardians onto the Eternals. It's just kind of hard not to talk about this stuff without them. And as we're talking about ancient beings, the Asgardians have already been established as one of the oldest races in the universe. So we can't really talk about them, like I just said, without dropping Thor's winged hat into the ring. So while Thor had no knowledge of Hela, it stands to reason that Thor may have just been too young and simply believed Hela to be an employee of Odin rather than a relation. In any case, the chance to see a young Thor even in a cameo would be interesting, as it would show the current god of thunder potentially coming into his powers or learning how to wield Mjolnir. And at number 1, let's take a look at Thanos. Okay, so yes, fans may have had enough of the Mad Titan by now. The Infinity Saga has come to a close, but particularly as the Avengers had to kill him like twice during Avengers Endgame. However, we're not talking about bringing him back again, simply showing the younger version of him, knowing that he's going to die centuries later. Alright, so this is where non-comic book fans may get confused. The Eternals as a species are divided in terms of their place of origin. The main group of Eternals who will be introduced in the upcoming movie come from Earth, but there's another group of Eternals that derive from Titan, home of Thanos and his parents Alars and Suisan. So there is every possibility that we may see a cameo of a younger Thanos potentially in school or after he is cast out for being an abomination. And we hear from other members of the Eternals about the tyranny he is causing. Now, we're not expecting him to be a villain in the movie, as again, we feel fans may have reached saturation by this point with the Mad Titan.